That's a really good question, because a lot of people think they know what a graphic novel is. It really started with comic books. So a graphic novel is a format that takes the pictures and words, uses them together like a comic book to tell a story or to convey information. It's probably the most popular or the hottest format of the 21st century. And because it's a format, it can be used to then tell any kind of story. It's not one particular genre. So yes, you can have a graphic novel that tells a superhero story or a monster story, but you can also use graphic novels then to discuss World War II or volcanoes or animals. So it's just a very, I would say, to sum up, it's the most popular format today. It uses words, text, and pictures together then to convey information. Well, one reason is because new readers, young readers, have grown up in this world of visual stimulation, visual information. They're always looking at screens, whether it's a TV or a movie or your cell phone, or you say mobile over here, right? Or a computer screen. They're used to getting their information visually through images. So they're used to that. That's how they're gaining information about the world around them. And when you think of it, a graphic novel is like a screen. There are panels or screens to convey and get that information. I know there are a number of literacy experts, reading experts from different universities and colleges in the UK and in Australia and the US who have done studies on this, and they all concur. They say that is how young children get their information. When a parent or a guardian is talking to a young child who's just learning the language, the child hears the words, but they're also seeing the object that's being talked about, or they're seeing this face talk to them. So that's just their mode of getting information. And I think then that's one reason then that graphic novels appeal to them. Plus, they really are fun. Children pick them up. It's fun to read. Some educators call it stealth learning because it's under the radar. They're picking up this book and they're reading, what? This is from the library? I can actually read this? You're letting me? And then they're learning something. They're learning vocabulary. They're learning about a topic, but they're learning it in sort of a fun way that's non-traditional too. Well, I think the first thing for educators or any of us who are involved with children and books is to, if we can get them to equate reading with pleasure, that's the first huge job. Then as they grow up and they get older in life and they're handed books and they say, here, there'll be a test on this, or read this, it will make you a better person. That may not be as fun, but they'll always remember, okay, there was a moment when reading was pleasurable. You know, they can't remove that from you. You still have that thought or that instinct. Again, because they are fun to read, they encourage continuous reading. Most readers of graphic novels will read that one over several times, and so what that does is that promotes fluency. So then the child then is used to it, they know what's happening. There are a lot of graphic novels that are retellings of famous works of literature. Let's say 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or Around the World in 80 Days, or H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. And students can read graphic novel versions of those, and then that way they're given the anchors. They know the main characters, they know the thrust and the plot, the story, they know how it ends. So then when they go on to read the actual traditional text version, they feel a little more familiar, they feel safer with it. I know where this is going. That happened with me. When I was a child, I read comic book versions of these classics. They called them illustrated classics years ago. And then I would go into the library and I found a book, During the Descent of the Earth, which I thought obviously was based on the comic book, I thought, wow, there's actually a book about this, and I can spend more time with the characters. But because I had read that graphic novel version of it, I felt a lot more comfortable than getting through all that more difficult dialogue and all those geographical terms, because I thought, okay, I know I'm getting to the good part pretty soon. So that's another reason I think that it does promote more reading of other things. Graphic novels, again, it's not everything. You don't have to read just graphic novels, but it's a nice tool to get children to see that there is excitement and pleasure in reading, and then to move them along. It can be a stepping stone to other kinds of reading, or just a pathway to something that might be more difficult. Well, there are a couple good reasons. One is Raintree has a real variety of graphic novels. It's not just one type. As I said, you can tell any kind of a story or use any genre in a graphic novel. And Raintree has a variety. They do have fiction. They do have nonfiction. They also have graphic novels that are about very popular, very common curriculum topics that are touched in schools. So a teacher can feel very confident if they pick up a graphic novel, let's say, on electricity or magnetism or something like that, or the ecosystems, food chains. They know, okay, all those topics, all those subjects that need to be covered will be covered in that book. So there's that variety. Plus, if you pick up a Raintree graphic novel, you'll notice that the font itself, it's upper and lower case. And if you go to a regular bookstore and you pick up any graphic novel, 90% of the time you'll always find it's in uppercase. It's in all caps. That's just a convention of most graphic novels. But Raintree does the upper and the lower, again, because that's how kids are learning to read and to write in school. So again, it's an aid to those readers. Another thing I think is probably number one is they're safe. I know parents and teachers and librarians, again, who might see a graphic novel at a bookstore. They might pick it up and open it up. A lot of those graphic novels really are intended for an older audience. So they may be a little inappropriate. You know, there may be subject matter that's a little iffy, or even how characters are drawn. They might think, oh, I don't want my kids to be exposed to this type of thing. You will not find anything that's inappropriate in them. So teachers then and parents can feel comfortable. And then I'd say lastly, because they do work, you can ask people in the various departments. We get letters, whether they're written or email, from teachers, from parents, saying, my child hated to read, but they picked up these books in the library because they had to do a report on something, or they had to read, and now they love them. And I'm not just saying that. I know that's like, oh, of course he would say that. But I hear that almost every month, year in, year out, when I go to conventions and workshops and meet teachers and librarians face to face. They actually say, thank you for making these books. Because I had a boy who wouldn't read, and he saw these books and he picked them up, and now he's asking for more. So that really sums up the whole thing. If you can get a child who before had nothing to do with books, for whatever reason, they thought they were boring or they had a struggle reading, and now they want more, that's a huge accomplishment. And that really is Raintree's goal, is to get kids reading and to support them and to have fun reading and to help that teacher or that educator give them a tool. Then whatever any tools of literacy we can give, and graphic novels seems to be a very powerful one these days. Okay, that's a good question. Well, as I said, there are reports. They could actually go online, and they could type in graphic novels, reading, children, reading scores. They'll find that across the board, graphic novels again encourage repeated reading because it's fun, and repeated reading then increases fluency and familiarity with difficult vocabulary. There's one major study that has found that having graphic novels in a library will increase the circulation of those books, the library's books, by 82%. And it increases the circulation of non-graphic material by 30%. So graphic novels in a library just causes an excitement among children. So they come into the library and they feel that this is a place for them. So they may pick off the shelf those graphic novels and read them, but then they'll see there are other books too. And they had excitement reading that one. Maybe they'll have fun reading another one. So there are those types of studies that people can actually find online. I think if you actually ask teachers and librarians at school how are graphic novels doing, they'll say they fly off the shelves. Kids are reading them. You go into a bookstore and you go to that graphic novel section, that's where you find the kids. And you'll find boy readers, and boys usually have more trouble reading than girls. You'll find boys sitting on the floor just absorbed in a graphic novel. You know, that's where they spend their time. So they can see it, they can ask educators, they can go online, and they can find out. It really does make a huge difference. So again, I think graphic novels, they're not the end-all and the be-all, but they are one powerful tool when it comes to literacy.